Here we go. We are recording.
Awesome.
Alrighty, and welcome to Authors Unite. With me and CK today. We are missing Isadora. She has a family engagement.
Yeah.
Um,
Family shouldn't come before Authors Unite. That's not fair.
well, you know what? Not everybody has the same priorities. I actually don't know how this is going to go because I'm more comfortable in this environment with multiple people.
Yeah.
Because then things bounce around back and forth and go in multiple directions. One-on-one, it becomes a conversation, and without a guiding line for conversations, I tend to falter. And we're not exactly in the habit of setting anything up ahead of time. So
Nope.
I have no idea where this is going to go. So do you have an idea, CK? Like, is there something you want to address as a conversation with only the two of us? Because I have a subject, but I want to wait till there's more than just two people. Like, ideally, I'd like it to be when there's you, me, Isadora, and at least Alan.
Yeah.
You know, to discuss that subject. So that's why I don't know what else to do.
I think I kind of have something.
Cool.
You, in the past, have been very clear that you don't write romance. You write relationship stories.
Yes.
And I think out of everyone in our little group, we are the two people who agree the most on relationship versus romance. So maybe that?
Yeah, okay. So shall we start with how we each define the difference?
That's a good point. Good place to start.
All right. For me, romance is about that falling in love moment. It's about the the word escapes me, but the being overwhelmed by that moment of being in love and all the stupidity that comes with it. Because that's what makes a good romance works, when that overflow of emotion makes the characters behave in a way that we as the reader go, oh my god, I can't believe they did that. But on some level, we kind of remember when we fell in love and went, okay, we didn't do that, but we weren't exactly rational at the time.
Yeah.
Relationship starts at some point after that. The ecstasy of falling in love is gone. Now you have to deal with that person with all the flaws, all the problem that comes with it, or there's never been that moment of being in love, because relationship doesn't have to be a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, boyfriend husband and wife. It doesn't have to be that. Friends is a form of relationship.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, for me, I write men in relationships with other men, because that relationship is not always a being a being together relationship. It'll be friendship, it'll be enemies, but there's a type of interaction that's more than just casual. So for me, those are the big difference between romance and
Relationship.
Thank you. And I'm realizing that my camera doesn't pick up my hands, and I'm gesticulating like crazy as I'm talking. So I would have to.
Well, we can still see your shoulders. We can see that you're moving around. It has the emphasis I think you were going for.
Yeah. Yeah. When I'm home, the camera is further. It's got a wider view, which means that you don't see me as well. So when I'm home full time, I'll have to find a halfway point. Alrighty. So how about you? How do you define the two difference?
Well, I think I mostly agree with you. Maybe I would like to add that romance is a lot about the touchy-feely stuff, like butterflies in the stomach and stuff like that, where relationships is sometimes more about actions. The things well, romance can have that, bringing flowers and stuff, but
Yeah.
being there for each other and knowing each other well enough to be like, okay, I know this person, for example, doesn't want people touching her shoulder. That's something you know in a relationship, regardless of whether it's romantic or family or friends or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think relationships is much more about the little things you do that you know to do or not to do because you know the person.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. So having defined how we view, how what we find is different, where do we go from there? Um, shall we talk about why we prefer one over the other?
Or just why, well, I don't necessarily prefer one over the other. I think it depends on the situation. So you can explain why you prefer
Well,
one over the
okay.
other.
I want to clarify. I do not hate romance. It's not that I hate it. Like, I've read some and I've read some good ones. I'm not a fan of it when it comes to writing, when it's only that, because I find that a story that is purely about the romance should be done in 20 pages. In 20 pages, you can state everything that the romance needs to be stated, and it's very hard for a writer to bloat that to a full book and not make it feel like it's either bloated or like the characters are doing truly stupid things just because the plot needs them to do it. So that's why I don't want to do romance, because pure romance, well, you know what? I don't think I can pull it off. I don't think I can do it properly. I will throw romance in other types of story. Like I have my Monsters and Bad Men series, which I call action romance, because it's an action story. It's an action thriller. But the two characters in the first trilogy are falling in love through all that, in the way Monsters and Bad Men will. So, you know, and it will become a relationship story further on, because now that they're falling in love, they have to deal with the consequences of that based on their personality and the situation they found themselves in. You know, that's why for me, pure romance doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree with that. Pure romance can be incredibly boring, but I also feel like a lot of romance these days is just like, he was a boy, she was a girl. I mean, that's the only reason why they fall in love, because they are opposite genders. Like, there's nothing specific about him that makes her love him, or vice versa.
Yeah. Well, that falls under bad writing, I think. Because
Yeah,
because
there's a
because
lot of that.
at the core, every heterosexual romance is that. You've got a boy, you've got a girl, they have to fall in love, and then the quality of the writer will make that more or less credible. And you get that in gay romance too. Is part of what happens, I find, in the gay romance I read, and this, full disclosure, may be entirely because of the kind of gay romance I like to read, but the romance is more inserted into a different kind of story rather than being pure romance. So,
Mm.
you know, but like I said, it may be because my bias makes me look for those kind of story rather than pure gay romance. Um,
I feel like gay romance, at least the I haven't read specifically gay romance because I don't read romance anymore. I read so much of that in my teen years. I'm done with it. But the kind of ships or fan fiction or whatever I've read, I've always been drawn to the gay stuff in a way because it doesn't have that heteronormative toxicity that is in
Yeah.
a lot of heterosexual romance, like semi-abusive boyfriends being put up on a pedestal because apparently that's what a girl's supposed to look for.
Yeah, the girl who wants the bad boy, even though he has no redeeming quality other than being a bad boy. Yeah. Um yeah.
Or the good guy who is still somewhat toxic.
Yeah. Yeah. Alpha male. There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of women going for the alpha male uh men, regardless of the damage that causes them, because they're women. He's an alpha male, they have to submit. um,
And there's a lot of, I feel personally at least, that the more I have seen this kind of trope or whatever to call it in fiction, the more I have accepted it as reality in my formative years. Like, okay, that is the kind of guy that is the right guy. Like,
well,
yeah, that's
and this is why a lot of people are very adamant about putting good morality in what we write.
yeah,
Full disclosure, I am not that kind of writer. I do not put morality tales in my books. They're pure entertainment. But I understand why they say that, because like you said, you've read so much of those romances between a woman and a really not appropriate man for her that you felt it was normal, and you're not the only one who took that view of that. For me, in the being gay, where my problem came from is watching porn. Because
hmm,
if you look at the gay porn that's popular, you get your own set of tropes. How is a gay man supposed to be built? Well, they're supposed to be a perfect hedonist, which I am not. So you get that everywhere, so you have to be careful, and we will be influenced no matter how knowledgeable we are.
yeah.
Thinking we know everything about the subject does not immunize us from the influence.
I kind of want to. You said a little while ago something about morality stories versus entertainment stories.
Yeah.
And I actually noticed something in a couple of authors a while back. C.S. Lewis has a real tendency to really make morality stories.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yes.
there's a clear line, there's a clear, this is a good thing, this is a bad thing. And they kind of bore me now. Whereas Shakespeare also has morality in his stories, but not in the this is a good thing, this is a bad thing kind of way. More in this is people interacting, and we can kind of see that these actions lead to bad outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
or this could have been handled better, or something like that. So you can have morality in your story without making it the main focus. And that generally, in my opinion, makes for a much better story.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think you need a form of morality within the story, on because you have to differentiate your good guys versus your bad guys. If
On
you're
something other than skin color or hooked nose or something.
Yeah, but yeah, and even if they're both bad guys, one has to be less of a bad guy than the other, and it usually comes down to something like morality, or at least it should. But like you said, C.S. Lewis manages to walk the line between preachiness. Like he is just on the line where he starts preaching his own personal morality, because especially with the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe series. I don't know if the series itself has Narnia series.
Narnia.
It's highly Catholic. Like you look at this, and the imagery is very Christian religious.
Yeah.
Um, but to me, he doesn't cross quite over the preaching line. He walks it finally. There's a lot of Christian morality, but it's still, it's still not going. Christian is good, rah rah rah. Like, it's got,
Hmm.
it's very close to the line. But yeah, once you hit preachiness, this is where I call this a morality tale, because it's all about the morality. Everything pushes that. And at that point, for me, a bit like you, I find those boring.
Yeah.
You know,
I think C.S. Lewis in some other of his works kind of crosses that line.
okay. I only know him for Narnia. Like
Yeah.
if you were to tell me, has C.S. Lewis written anything other than Narnia, I would have a difficult time answering that, because
Yeah. We read
that's
this
all he's known.
one, The Great Divorce, for book club,
Uh,
and I found that kind of crossed the line. It was people living in hell going up to heaven to visit and figuring out if they could stay in hell, and it became really preachy
okay.
and kind of overwritten. But that's my personal opinion. I
Well,
don't want to sit on it.
overwritten, it might be more a mark of the time than a
True.
C.S. Lewis thing,
Yeah.
because if I remember correctly, he is from the time where writers were paid per the word.
Yeah.
So if a writer wanted to earn a living, he had to pad his book with a lot and lots of word. The best example of that I was given, I do not remember the name of the author, but he spent something like 20 pages having characters walk from one side of a room to another where nothing happens. The only thing that happens is that they are crossing the room, and he manages to fill about something like 20 pages of that.
That's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. But again, so to get back to relationship, um, one of the reason I like the relationship story is that it allows more nuance.
Yeah.
Falling in love is kind of unilateral. It
Yeah.
goes in one direction, and after that, it's about the padding, it's about the mistakes they make. But, you know where it's going to end up, because if it's a romance, they end up together. It's a question of how do they get there. But if it's a relationship story, anything can happen.
Yeah.
The characters love each other. They've been together for 5 years. They do love each other, but damn it, they're bored with one another. I mean, it happens. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much you love someone. After a while, you know everything about them, and where's the excitement? Where's the reason for remaining together, other than they love other than they are in the relationship? And exploring that,
Mm.
becomes more interesting, because now, me as a reader, I don't know where the story is going. Especially since I know from personal experience that, being in a relationship, having been in love with someone doesn't guarantee you're going to remain together,
No.
because people change. Like, I have an ex. I loved him. We were together for a very long time. And when the relationship ended, I went, finally.
Mm.
This is
Yeah.
not what you expect from the moment they fall in love, because oh, they're madly in love, it's gonna last forever, and kind of thing. But no, the moment after is more interesting, because you don't know where it's going. And in a story, I find that it's easier to write a well developed relationship over a full book than the falling in love moment, because so many things can happen over a relationship. The
Yeah.
small problems that become mountains. You've put the toilet roll upside down, or so right side out. But doesn't matter. Yes, it matters. No, it doesn't. Yes, it matters. These little things that can become battlefields.
Yeah.
So again, that's why I prefer writing relationship over romance.
I also think that falling in love and being meant to be, or whatever you want to call it, are two wildly different
Oh
things.
yes, yeah,
You can
I agree.
so easily fall in love with a person who is completely wrong for you.
Yes,
And that would actually be kind of a fun romance story to write. Have all that butterfly in the stomach kind of thing,
honestly,
and they're completely wrong.
well, honestly, as a romance story, I personally think that 90% of the romance out there is exactly what you've just defined.
Yeah.
So it's already been done because in that moment of
But they always end up together.
sorry,
They always end up together and like, it's happy now.
but that's the thing.
No.
But that's the thing is that in that moment of falling in love, we are not rational.
Yeah.
You know, it's in that moment of relationship that we become rational, and we realize what kind of monster we ended up with. You know, or the
Good description.
you know. So that's you know that's the step that the romance doesn't take, and it can't take it because it's no longer a romance the moment the woman realizes, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
You know, oops, are we allowed to swear?
I didn't notice. So
But yes, so it's well, you know what, Isadora or Alan can bleep it out when they come to it. um so yeah, I mean the romance can be very toxic to the outside person because inside the romance we don't see it, the characters don't see it because the emotions are so overpriced, and also because it's very easy for the abuser, because I have no problem calling the man in those kind of romances an abuser, to act nicely enough so that the woman, the other partner, believes that they're nice guys. um
I think the we
Sorry, go ahead.
okay. I think the types of male love interests that really get to me are the ones that are like 90% good guys and then just have small things about them that aren't quite flaws, but like toxic masculinity in a way, and no one, not the writer, not the female love interest, no one really identifies these as toxic. So you just accept them as this is how men are.
Yeah, yeah, well, it is sort of a common thing these days in life, you know. Men are the standard man, if you find somebody to define it, has a lot of toxic traits in it, you know, that is considered normal. You know, well, you know, it's nothing we can do about it. It's a man, you know,
Yeah. And as long
which
as we keep perpetuating that, I feel like there's always be some toxicity in relationships in a way.
yeah, yeah, yes, because they're the template.
Yeah.
You know, I I think it's one of the reason that when I did my attempt, because to be honest, Collision Course, book one of Monsters and Bad Men, was my attempt to write a pure romance. Like I was going to write purely romance. You know, I hadn't done a lot of research, but I'd read a few romance. I was going to follow the trope and write it as gay romance, of course. And I couldn't, because that's
Mm,
not who I am. I can't. But I think that's why I picked characters who are broken to start with.
yeah. And
Because,
openly broken.
sorry?
Openly broken.
Yeah, openly broken. Because I gave them a starting point where the toxicity was explained.
Mm,
And then their act of, I'm putting it in quote, goodness became a contrast to who they were at their core. You know, like I have a lot of book planned for this series in very vague term, and at no point will these characters become good people.
mm,
They'll become better, but they will never become good people because their brokenness will never be cured. That is not what the series is about. You know, it's about building a relationship in spite of being broken.
Mm.
You know, this is, I do not write guides. I do not write guides to how relationships should be. Um, but yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna have, if my characters are going to do bad stuff, I'm going to make it pretty damn clear.
Yeah.
You know.
I didn't know you actually ever tried to write a full-on
Yeah,
romance.
yeah. Collision Course was my attempt. I was going
Mm.
to go. I was going. They have to fall in love. It has to be clear that they want to be in. That they're meant to, not meant. That their personality complement each other. But then stuff had to get in the way.
Yeah.
You know. And one of the things that I made sure to happen is that the stuff that got in the way was never fully external. Because that's
Mm.
another thing I don't really like about romance.
Yeah.
A lot of the problems are external. Like, they love each other, they want to be together, but there's a third person getting in the way.
Yeah.
The love triangle is a big trope and all that kind of stuff. But to me, when these characters are broken enough
Yeah.
that I can simply rely on their brokenness to throw wrenches in their relationship. Book one goes fairly well because it's that falling in love time.
Mm.
They're easy. They're easily easy. It's easy for them to overlook, or not notice the flaws. But in book two, Blind Spot, one of my characters, Tristan, is very narrow-minded and self-centered. He deals with all his problem. So when somebody that he's helped in the past is in trouble again, he goes to help without second thought, and he never tells Bart what he's doing. And
Yeah.
Bart,
Line communication skills.
exactly, and Bart has abandonment issues.
Mm.
His father, when he found out he was gay, did not kick him out of the household. He drove him to a pimp and gave him to the pimp. So yeah, Bart has issues with abandonment. So when Tristan just vanishes on him,
Mm.
he drops everything and he needs to go figure out what's going on. And then in book 3, I have a third character in the series, Emil, who becomes Tristan's son. And Bart doesn't know how to deal with that, because anytime he sees Tristan help Emil, Emil is thoroughly traumatized. So he needs a lot more attention at this time. But every time Bart sees that, he sees Tristan loving Emil more than him.
Mm.
And he sees this abandonment thing coming up again. And he runs away to go deal with something else without telling anyone, because that's how they are, And Tristan is so narrow-minded, he doesn't even realize that Bart is gone. Because they only see each other on the weekends, and they had a fight the weekend before. So Tristan just goes, well, he's dealing with his problem. When he's ready to talk, he's going to contact me. It takes Bart's grandfather to show up at Tristan's house and go, what did you do? And once Tristan finds out, he goes, I'm going to fix it. And he goes away. And this becomes my resolve. Because at the end of that book is the first time in the trilogy that Tristan tells Bart that he loves him.
Mm.
There's a lot of showing that
Yeah.
Tristan cares deeply for Bart, but he never says it. And Bart never says it to Tristan either. He tells his grandmother that he loves him, but they never tell each other that they love one another, and that becomes, the big thing, So the next trilogy cannot be about them falling in love.
No.
So, that first trilogy, I can define it as a romance. It's very vague. There's a lot of action to it, but I don't have a problem tagging romance onto it. The next one is going to be relationship. I
Yeah.
will, whenever I publish that, I will definitely put romance tag just to keep continuing, but it will definitely be more about relationship because it will now be about the next trilogy when I write it is about Tristan trying to function in a city.
Hmm.
The thing to remember about Tristan is that he's something of a rabid animal. He is not socialized at all. He's lived alone. I mean, he was raised in a forest to live off the land, and at no matter the cost by his father. His father tried to kill him, and there's a lot of stuff. They're broken for a reason. Um, you know, but at the end of the first trilogy, Tristan loses his home. He's kicked
Mm.
out of the community that had taken him. It was a loose-knit community of broken people, and Bard goes, well, you know what? I have a house. It's big enough. We can move in there. And he lives in the suburb.
Ah.
So
Okay.
so the first book of the trilogy is about Tristan trying to live there and something like that. Like I don't know what the story is going to be about really. But like that's the basis. Like, it's about, how do you socialize a wild animal? And can you socialize a wild animal?
Mm.
You know, the answer is no, you can't. But yeah, that's, as much as I enjoyed writing that, all I got out of it is a trilogy. And that's
Mm.
because there's a lot more stuff happening than the romance.
Yeah.
If I
I.
wanted to put another trilogy beyond that of the romance itself, I would have to, you know, find ways of extending that. And this is where bloating comes, That's
Mm.
why I have no problems just going, you know what, from this point forward, this is relationship,
Yeah.
you know. I will deal with them, I will deal with the three of them because Emil is going to still be there as a unit dealing with, there's still going to be internal problems, but now most of the problem will not be between them, but it will be between them and the outside world.
Yeah. Isadora a while back kept writing romances. I think that
Mm-hmm.
was like almost a year ago, and she kept talking about it so much that eventually I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna give it a chance. I had promised myself years and years ago that I would never try to write romance because I just found it too boring. But I gave it a shot,
Yep.
and like halfway through the first book, a guy ended up with a knife sticking out of his eye, and it was it was sword fights more than actual romance. And I think there was all of one kiss in the first book, and the rest of it is just political and sword fights and classes, like farmers versus royalty. And I love that so much because they really get to develop a relationship, these
Yep.
two characters, and there's a reason that it's like it's this guy and this girl. Like she couldn't pick any other guy, even though there are a multitude of guys around her. It has to be these two,
Yeah.
not just because they're a guy and a girl.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the good romances come about just the way you describe them, where you start going, I'm going to write a romance, but then you don't go, it's got to be that. You let the romance become whatever it wants to become. So it
Yeah,
becomes mirrored in other stuff. You know,
yeah,
in your case, political and society stuff. In my case, action and thriller. You know, I think it's when we try to constrain it that the
yeah,
romance gets boring. Because, well, okay, boring may not be the right word, but it becomes formulaic in such a way that after reading one book, you can tell how every other one is going to come. I mean, I can't read Harlequin. I actually gave them a try. Okay, no, let me rephrase that. They actually tricked me in reading
Yeah.
them. Yeah, because very long time ago, Harlequin came up with a new franchise that they called Silhouette, which was going to be thrillers and paranormal stuff. That's how they sold it. And I went, oh, cool. So I ordered myself a couple of those because there was a promotion. I think it was ordered 3 for the price of 1 kind of thing.
Mm.
And basically what they turned out to be is straight up romance with an extra element of the thriller or the paranormal. So you're reading everything else, but the guy turns out to be a werewolf. Or
Yeah.
the guy, it turns out to be the private investigator she hired. But everything else is pure romance. And I'm reading this and I'm going, okay, let me see if I get this straight. The girl, her father is a world-class chemist. She knows his work. She comes here because he's disappeared. Turns out the guy he was experimenting on is a werewolf, but there's no magic, blah, 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 blah. And at the end, she can't read the formula that's on the side of the page, which is the cure. And the werewolf has to be the one to read it. And I'm going, wait a minute. She's the one who grew up with the damn chemist. How can she not read this? Why does she have to depend on him? And then I go, oh, right, it's a romance. She cannot win the story because she has to be rescued by the man. So yeah, I was basically, after reading that, I went, Harlequin, I will never touch your stuff. So anytime Harlequin is connected to anything, I go in a different direction. I just cannot. I can't. It's too formulaic. Like, it's too badly written and formulaic. So yeah,
I kind of really enjoy as a writer when you go on that, oh, okay, this is where we're going kind of journey where the characters just take over. And at the same time, I kind of hate it because I decided to write a romance. And now I have to figure out battle strategies and old-timey war stuff. And I know nothing about that.
Pick it up. If there's magic in your world, just make it up. You know what? Magic short circuits every rationality. You know what? I don't need to know battle strategy because somebody can just throw a fireball.
There technically is magic, but in the sense like it has been banned for 100 years, so it might at some point come back and everyone is afraid of it. None of the characters actually have magic.
It's not part of the story. It's part of the lore of the world. Yeah, that makes it a little more difficult. Yeah.
I will introduce dragons in the second book, so that will help.
Yes, it will. We're diverging a little bit from relationship and romance, but I would say if you're on your first draft, I would say don't care. Just write. Don't worry too much about the research, about the battle strategies. Just write the story so it's there. And then you can come back and, then you can come back and go, okay, I have a war here. Now it needs to make sense.
Yeah.
So, you do.
I kind of did that. And then I realized maybe them being camped out on a field is really poor strategy in a way. Like, they could have done something like that. And I had my brother, who was in the military, actually try to map out where the battles would take place and such on a map he had made of Game of Thrones. That made total sense. And it turned out I had to basically throw out the entire all the chapters I had done of the second book and start completely over. So I'm not doing that again. Now I'm researching.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, it doesn't work for everyone else. Part of the reason why I think it works for me is I write very small. actually, did I write? Well, I did write a war of sort. But when I write something big, it's from the point of view of only one character,
Yeah.
and he might hear about what's going on, but he doesn't see the whole of it. So I don't
Mm.
really have to worry about the big strategy. I just have to worry about what this guy is doing, and I can easily make sure that what he's doing doesn't have to be relevant to the war, because it's his story and not the story of the war.
That is where I trap myself in a way, because I have the female love interest who comes into well, basically medical help, and the male love interest who is apparently the king. So he kind of has to do the whole strategy thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, yeah, he's pretty much involved.
Yeah.
Um, so what else can we say about relationship versus romance? Well, I mean, okay. I should have said that at the beginning, but caveat: these are our opinions, not the
Yeah.
rules. This is this is not it's good versus it's bad. It's how we view it. So for people listening to this, write what you want. If you love writing romance, don't care about what we're saying about it. Just keep writing it. You know, if you
And if you love reading relationship stories, come read our books.
yeah, we'll provide a couple of links in the description. Um, but yes. Okay, this is a tangent.
Bring it on.
One of my biggest pet peeve in the writing community that I see mostly with the writers who have become popular are these videos of the worst of or the best of. The worst trope in science fiction, the best tropes in romance.
Mm.
There is no such thing as the best of. Not when one person is talking about it.
No.
It is what I don't like about, what I
Yeah.
love about. I really hate that they're framed, and I know they don't have a choice. I know
It's
that
clickbait.
that is the math behind how the search engines work and all that kind of. I know that. I still hate seeing those videos. You know, there's a couple of people who, fortunately for them, I can't remember the names, and I'm not going to look while we're recording, who keep putting up these best, the best tropes in this, the word, never do that. And I'm going, ah! If half the time I'm listening to them, I'm going, I want to write something just to prove you wrong. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not about don't do that. It's about don't do that badly.
Yeah.
The monologue. It is one of the worst. It is, I almost did it. It's one of the tropes I hate. But did you see The Incredibles?
Yeah.
How fun was it to listen to Syndrome monologue? Like, he would just go on and go on, and I hate this, but I love listening to him, and I loved that they made it a point of the story that that he would catch himself after 5 minutes and go, "Oh my God, you got me monologuing." Like, they put a lampshade on it. And it was fun to listen to. And that is where it's done well.
Speaking of done well, Shakespeare on monologues. I
Okay.
couldn't resist.
Yeah. I hate monologuing so much that in one of my series, in the Inheriting the Line series, I actually came up with a way where I could make sure that my main character wouldn't have to listen to monologues, because he literally would start thinking about something else. you know. But then beyond that, I had the other people react to that, because the character would start talking, the other person would start talking, explaining something, and he would start going, oh, okay, and go, oh, I wonder if now it would be somewhat relevant to what's going on. Like I would not have him consider what's going on in Venice, but
I did that once
his
actually.
mind his mind would start wondering, and after, 2, 3, or 4 paragraphs of wondering, he would come back to it, and the guy would be looking at him, slack-jawed, and he would go, what did I miss? And I pulled that to an extreme in the last book, where he's gained the power to make himself multiple copies.
Cool.
And the main bad guy, who's very powerful at the point, starts talking and stuff like that. And as a group, their mind starts wandering and thinking about stuff. And they all come back. And Damien is looking at them, and he's going, "There's 7 of you, and not one of you could pay attention to me." And like it was, but that trait of this character came about, because I don't like to listen to a character monologuing, and it happened for the first time in that situation where I was realizing my bad guy was going to start monologuing, and I'm going, oh, I don't want to listen to this,
I
and
actually
I
saw someone
go ahead.
commenting about how they did this in Supernatural, with Ruby. I think that was the end of season 3.
Okay, that's a long time ago for me.
Yeah, right as they're freeing Lucifer.
Mhm.
Yeah, right before they kill Ruby. Maybe I should have said spoilers there.
Oh,
That was a
well,
long time ago. If you haven't seen that by now, I'm sorry.
we're talking about more than 10 years ago. We're quite
Yeah.
15 years ago at this point.
Yeah, probably. But she did the whole monologuing thing after she completed her evil plan. Not before. She explained everything when there was nothing the boys could do to stop her.
Yeah, there you go. That's
So
as a writer, that's a way of taking it and twisting it a little bit enough that it makes it interesting.
yeah.
Have you watched the Kung Fu Panda series of movies?
Yeah, a few of them.
Okay.
I don't know which ones anymore.
Sorry?
I don't know which ones I've seen and which ones I haven't.
Well, as far as I know, there's only 3 of them at this point. I think there was a TV series, but I think there's only 3 movies. In the second one, there's a place where the bad guy, starts to explain what he's doing. And Poe goes blah, 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 blah. And the bad guy goes, stop that. I'm trying to, and he goes, blah, 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 blah. And the bad guy, and like literally, and this is entirely in Poe's personality set. Like, it's purely in character. But it was such a fun way to watch the writer short circuit the monologue, that, it became really fun to watch. There's this bad guy attempting to give his big monologue, is I have won, you can no longer stop me, blah, 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. Honestly, Kung Fu Panda is a series that my roommate had to basically tie me to a chair to watch. It has 2 things going against it. It's animation, and it's a Jack Black movie. I despise Jack Black as an actor.
I have no idea who he is.
He's the voice of Poe in the movie. But he's done a lot of stuff, and it's not that he's a bad actor, it's that what he does just makes me cringe.
Like the type of movies he's in.
The type of characters that he plays.
Okay.
He's one of the few. I've got 3 actors that I will not watch anything they do if I know they're in it. Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, and Jack Black.
Mm.
These three, if I know they're in a movie, I will not watch it.
I've been like that with Leonardo DiCaprio for so long. Not because he's a bad actor or anything, but because as a teenage girl, every girl was like, "Oh, he's so hot, he's so hot." I'm like, okay, if that is the best he has to offer, like his physical appearance, that's not worth my time.
Okay, yeah, no,
That just
that's an
became
understandable
for me.
reaction. I will say based on a series of wrong premise, but yeah, no, it's understandable. But yeah, so
It's an association I have with
yeah,
him. He's purely physically attractive,
yeah.
and I have to get over that association before I will watch his movies again. So,
Well, with me, it's a bit what happened with Jack Black and Kung Fu Panda. Because I had this association of really cringy character, and the thing is, it's a comedy. It's an animated comedy with Jack Black. I'm going. There's no way I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to be cringing the entire time. And
mm,
my roommate goes, "No, you've got to watch it. I think it's really the kind of story you're going to like." And I'm going, "You're nuts." I'm going, "No, you're insane." And I think there was a bet involved, and I lost. And he basically goes, "Sit down. We're watching the movie." And I went, "Oh." So I watched it. 15 minutes in, like I'm captivated. Like, yes, they are cringe-worthy places in the movie, but they fit. They're more cringe-worthy because of me, not because of the movie. But they work, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at this, and I'm going, damn it, this is a good movie. And by the time we're done, my roommate looks at me expectantly, and I'm going, damn it, this was good. And he goes, I knew it. But then the second movie comes out, and I'm going, there's no way, absolutely no way they can live up to the expectation of the first one. So it took me a while before I would sit down and watch it, and lo and behold, they surpass it. Like, I'm looking at this and not only is this good, it's better than the first one.
mm.
So when the third one comes, I'm going, okay, I am fully ready to be disappointed, but I'm going to watch it now. And damn it, I'm not going to say it was better than the first two, but it was still good. Like, looking at it, I'm going, okay, they managed to, you know, up the bar. They didn't quite meet it, but they went a lot closer than I was expecting to the bar.
I think
At this
it's
point,
worse when it's
sorry.
the other way around. Like you're really excited for a movie and then it just completely flops.
Yeah, there'll be that. There'll be that.
I saw that in a I love Shakespeare, if anyone hadn't noticed. And one of my favorite all-time favorite plays is Much Ado About Nothing, which is a bit romance relationship-ish. It has both things actually. It has the really cliche stuff like they fall in love, butterflies and all that in one couple, and then the other couple is like the hate to love trope, and they're just amazing. But then I found a DVD of this, directed by Joss Whedon, and I figured this is gonna be good. There are good actors in it and everything. And I kid you not, I got through like an hour or half an hour or something of it, and I was sick to my stomach. It was that bad. It was so sexualized, all of it, and you shouldn't be able to overly sexualize Shakespeare, but somehow Joss Whedon just managed to make it so nauseatingly sexual. Like that whole big biceps on the guy kind of thing, and I could not watch it.
Oh well, I can't comment because I have not watched it. It's not. I mean, Shakespeare is. It is not a Shakespeare thing. It's the older writers are not an appeal to me. Um, for me, there's getting over the language that is always a problem.
Mm,
Then there's a getting, going over this is how it was back then. The changes in society that make the story a little different to what we see today. you know, and after that, there's what the people have made of it. Like my big example, Romeo and Juliet. You know, how everybody goes, oh, this is such a beautiful love story. And I'm going, they kill each other. They both die at the end by their own hands. How is that a good love story?
In my opinion, and I get that a lot of people will differ in this, but in my opinion, the only reason Juliet loves Romeo is because she's rebelling. And the only reason Romeo loves Juliet is because his heart lies between his legs.
He's a
It's
guy.
not love.
He's a guy.
He literally broke up with his girlfriend because she wouldn't put out, and then less than 24 hours met Juliet, and it's like, oh, she's the love of my life. I've never seen anything more beautiful. I cannot stand the guy.
I've never seen anything more available. Yeah. No, but this is the thing, you know, people will distort
Yeah.
stories. Well, I mean, as a species, humans have this capability of distorting everything.
I especially hate the Shakespeare was definitely straight thing. Like, no.
Okay, I did not know that one. I like it. That's not something I'd heard about.
There's one of his sonnets that specifically states it was written to a male, and it's a love sonnet, and that's the most specific one of them. And people are like, well, that one probably wasn't written by Shakespeare. Completely ignoring the like dozen of sonnets that are like addressed to some unspecified gender person, stating that this unspecified gender needs to get a wife so that this unspecified gender can have a child so that this unspecified gender's beauty can live on. And I'm like, yeah. Back then you needed a man and a woman to get a child.
Yeah, they didn't have the magic or the technology we do today to allow two guys or two women.
And I don't really think that, well, at least I have never looked at any of my platonic friends and gone like, you are so beautiful. You need to get a child so the world can keep your beauty.
Yeah, it's definitely a demonstration of alpha male insecurity, where someone who is on a pedestal respected a demonstration of something alpha males idolize turns out to have traits that they don't agree with.
Oh, I thought I had that wrong in my head. I didn't understand that. I'm with you now.
Oh, you know, because you know, as a writer, Shakespeare is amazing.
Yeah.
And
no arguments there.
And you know, and a lot of what he pulls forward in his stories have been appropriated by alpha males. You know, so now the realization that the guy who wrote those things that the alpha males claim as theirs might not have been an alpha male himself could lead to imply something about those alpha male in questions. So they really have to strike all those out of the picture.
Yeah.
And we see that everywhere. You know, honestly, if we could get rid of the alpha male, I think the world will be a lot better.
There was a bamboo colony or something where all the alpha males were straight out from some natural disaster or something. So only the females and the
let me qualify that. It was a man-made disaster.
It was?
Yes, because they started feeding themselves off a trash dump. And because the alpha males were the ones who always ate first and ate most, they all poisoned each other to death.
That hasn't been included in the things I've seen.
Oh, because I actually saw the documentary about that by the man who was studying that troop of baboons. So, so yeah, that will, unless it happened twice, Uh,
But yeah, all the alpha males were gone, and the babies, even the male babies, grew up, and none of that toxicity existed. No one was jerks to each other, and baboons came in from other groups, quickly learned that they also couldn't be jerks. So it kind of became peaceful little society, and
yeah,
I like that.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, yeah. It's very much a self-perpetuating environment.
Yeah.
You know, if you can remove the jerks from the environment, it's a lot tougher for the jerks to recreate themselves in that environment.
It just makes me so sad in a way because I've been reading a lot of Shakespeare sonnets lately, and a lot of them seem like he was in the closet and afraid of what would happen if he came out. And like 500 years later, he's still being forced in the closet.
Yeah, yeah. This is, as like they say, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You know,
That is a hopeless statement.
yeah, but it's still reality. It's still how the world is, as unfortunate as it is. The I'm going to stop there because if I keep going, we're going to turn political, and I don't really want that on this channel. Um, so yeah, going back to relationships after our giant tangent. Um,
We've been at this for an hour now. I thought this was supposed to only be able to record for 40 minutes.
yeah, same here.
But it has been an hour.
Can I get a timer on this thing?
I could see it last time, but I can't now.
Yeah, well, the last time all I got was the 10-minute warning. Interesting. Yeah, no, I'm not getting a timer.
Nope.
Well, okay. Well, do we have anything else to say then? Because I was waiting for the timer to be able to wind this down to a close. But do we have anything to say? Anything else about romances versus relationships as a story?
I don't know.
Well, okay. I'm going to say no. We don't. I'm going to say we've said everything we had to say. If something else comes up, I'm sure we can either record our own videos or bring it back up in another meeting. So I will bring this to a close. I will wish everyone who watched now. Wait, no, this is not live. Everybody who watches this, thank you for watching. I hope you'll subscribe. Hit the subscribe, hits the ring so you.
Like?
Sorry?
No, sorry. I said like.
Oh, and yes, like the video. Yeah. I am Kindar, the Tiger Writes. You can find me at thetigerwrites.com. I have a Patreon. I'm Kindar. Kindar. We'll include that in the links. CK, you have any links?
Yeah,
where can we find you?
I'm CK or Karina, depending on which you prefer. And you can find me on Storytelling Karina or on Patreon. And I can't actually remember what I am on Patreon, but if you go to Storytelling Karina, you can probably find the link.
It'll be in the links.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, as I like to say on my podcast and in my letters, I'll see you on the next one.
See ya.